there hasn't been an agreement to hold back for now. The Americans paid the Iraqi government $500 million of its own money, by the way. I mean, Iraqi oil, which is exported, all the money goes to the United States. Thanks to the stupidity of Saddam Hussein in his invasion of Kuwait and the UN Security Council resolutions, which have not been lifted, all that oil wealth goes to the United States, and then the United States decides if they want to give the Iraqi government its money or not. So they have a stranglehold over the Iraqi people. It's sort of like Venezuela. And so, first of all, the Americans gave $500 million of Iraq's own money back to Iraq to use. And so I'm sure that was one incentive. But also, I think there's a lull in fighting across the region right now. And we see, like in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz, there's quiet for now. I think these are not unconnected for the time being. And with regards to Yemen, I mean, Yemen has imposed a siege on Saudi ships. Why? Because the Saudis started a war by bombing Yemen, but also because Saudi Arabia has imposed a siege on Yemen. I mean, the reason why they put a siege on Saudi oil tankers is because of the siege on Yemen. This is all about the siege on Yemeni women and children. The Saudis have been trying to strangle them for years. And now that Yemen is saying enough is enough in the West and in regional regimes, these that are bound to the West, they're all in shock. And what is Yemen doing? Well, they bombed the international airport, they starved the people, they bombed the port. So they shouldn't be all that surprised. But there's no reason why Yemen should enter Saudi Arabia. Saudi critical infrastructure, its oil exports, can be stopped by Yemen very easily. And the Saudis are hurting badly, especially with what's going on in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. So Yemen doesn't need to, go into Saudi Arabia. They can just pile on the pressure. And Saudi doesn't have that sort of money. They've spent hundreds of billions in the war against Yemen. They've wasted hundreds of billions in these, huge mega projects, which didn't get like the line and things like that. And it's a family dictatorship. People get their money. The people at the top, just like in these other countries. So Saudi Arabia is not in an ideal situation, nor any of the countries in the Persian Gulf. And this is, by the way, something that I think the Americans should be worried about, because look at the situation in Japan. The Japanese economy is in trouble, and the Japanese are maybe forced to start selling their bonds in the United States to prop up the currency. And then the Saudis and the Emiratis and the Kuwaitis, who are losing lots of money and have lost a lot over the past 5.5 months, they're going to need a lot of their money back to sustain their economies, because they consume a lot. They consume more than probably any other country in the world. They export oil and gas and refined goods, but they consume a huge amount of goods. And so so Trump was hoping to get trillions of dollars from the Persian Gulf to go to the U.S. economy, but what he's done is basically stop that from happening. And now we will begin to see the reverse. There are clear indications that money is being withdrawn from the West to pay for costs in these countries. And if this continues for much longer, a lot of money will have to go back. So none of this is good for the U.S. economy. But going back to the question, the Saudis are under a lot of pressure. And so I think Yemen is in a strong position. All they have to do is enforce the siege. The Strait of Hormuz is closed for now. Saudi Arabia, the smart thing to do is just to negotiate with Yemen and end the war. It's, quite amazing that they're unwilling to do that.
There is some sort of confusion happening, in my opinion, is that if, let's assume, the United States and Iran reaching some sort of agreement before Saudi Arabia removes the siege on Yemen, it means that we're going to see the opening of the Strait of Hormuz while Yemen tries to put pressure on Saudi Arabia in the Red Sea. If Iran does that, it means that they're going to reduce the pressure on Saudi Arabia, which means that the Yemeni blockade doesn't mean that much for Saudi Arabia. Is there some sort of coordination, cooperation between Iran and Yemen that before removing the siege on Yemen, Iran would not let the strait to be opened?
There's always been coordination between Iran, Yemen, the Palestinians, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, and the resistance in Iraq. That's always been the case. So it's that continues to be the case, and if there is progress at some point, that will be a part of the negotiations. But we aren't there yet, and it's very, at the moment, it looks far off. Maybe it isn't. We don't know. I mean, Trump is someone who I would never try to predict. And whenever someone says, "What do you think will happen now that he said so and so?" and I always say, "I have no idea." And right now, as you and I are speaking, you may have some crazy Truth Social post come out, and then the whole discussion changes. It's quite possible because that's what's been happening throughout the last few months, and I don't. At the moment, I don't see any great indication that the United States is going to move swiftly towards a resolution to the problem. If they did, it could be resolved quite quickly. I mean, if the Saudis and the Yemenis came to some sort of agreement, it would benefit both sides. If the Saudis apologized to the Iraqi people and made up for the crimes that they carried out, and against the Iranians, because they murdered 5 Iranians who were there to help manage the Arba'in ceremony, the commemoration of the 40th day after the anniversary of the martyrdom of Imam Hussein. But in any case, if the United States went towards resolving this issue, if they seriously moved in that direction and moved to revive the MOU and actually implement the MOU, the situation in the Persian Gulf could move close to normal in 3-4 weeks. I mean, because if he was really serious, then shipping companies and insurance companies would move in. But it's very difficult to imagine Trump going there unless he's really desperate. And the situation is bad. I mean, as you pointed out earlier, the Strait of Hormuz is almost shut, and the Red Sea is, exactly what we're witnessing. It's oil is not getting through. So Saudi oil, its production has been reduced, and that oil is going all around the African continent, which is, some say, costs $7 or $8 a barrel extra just so that it can go around the continent. So this is, this is a very dangerous situation for the global economy. And Trump has midterm elections in less than 3 months, even though he doesn't seem to care. But everyone around him apparently does.
I don't know if you saw the report on Fars News about the lines that are being discussed between Iran and Oman, which mentions that Iran doesn't let the US or Israeli vessels to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, and warships are not allowed to be passed, and other points that are important. But when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, it seems that the route that goes in is going to be totally controlled by Iranians. That coming out is going to be partially by Iranians and together with the Omani. And considering this, if just mention if the way that I'm expressing, the way that I understood it, and is that correct, or is it something else And then the next question would be, what would be the long run strategy of Iran controlling the Strait of Hormuz? Because many people are so much confused with the charging vessels and ships. I think that's not the primary objective of Iranians. What is that?
It is important for Iran. I mean, they want to collect fees, I have no doubt, and they see this as compensation for the crimes committed against Iran by these countries in the Persian Gulf region. And I'm sure that the Iranians are going to have preferential treatment for those countries that didn't take part in the onslaught against the Iranian people. But it's more that the security issue is the most important thing. War has been waged against the country by Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Jordan, the Israeli regime, and the United States. And Iran does not. The Iranians will not accept the Persian Gulf region being another foothold, being used again as a foothold by the United States against the country. We'll have to wait and see, though, what the final text is like with regards to what ships are not allowed to go through and what sort of fees will be collected. But from my understanding, initially they'll start with 2 corridors, but then it'll merge into one. But it's exactly as you said, that the Iranians will have oversight over the corridor that goes alongside Oman before the merger. So, but we still don't have a deal. I was told that at any minute there will be a statement from the Supreme National Security Council, like an hour or two ago. I haven't checked for like a half an hour before the show, and I don't know if a statement has come out yet. And I don't even know what the statement is going to be about, but I was told that the statement will be released shortly. Okay. So maybe that'll have something to do with
this. We have the statement.